Good morning, Colette. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How's yourself?
Well, I don't know. I woke up and I got some messages from some different news agencies, and it's all about the Labour Party and what they're doing. I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show. It was about terrorists the terrorism charge being labelled at journalists, and it's a worrying step forward, and it's all from Keir Starmer. It's beyond belief what we're going through, Colette, honestly. So what I thought I'd get you on today for was to talk about a few things, but because this is on my email, what do you make of this? Journalists are getting charged with the Terrorism Act, and it's all done from the Labour Party, and new rules brought in. What do you make of all this?
So really, this is an extension on what the Tories were calling all of us extremists.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're supposed to have freedom of speech.
Yes.
We are supposed to be allowed to have respectful protests. Obviously, we don't want anybody to be harmed or put in danger through a protest of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
But for journalists, they have a job to do to
Mm-hmm.
put the news out there. Obviously, we know some journalists are better than others, and some are more biased than others. But I think this is definitely going far too far regarding
Mm-hmm.
The extremist route and closing down the freedom of speech. And again, we see that on social media, people
Yep.
trying to
Mm-hmm.
post information and it's actually being throttled, and the
Mm-hmm.
information's either not allowed to get put up on social media,
Mm-hmm.
or it's been deleted, or it's actually not getting to the people's followers. For some reason, it's actually being strangled. It's actually happening throughout society, whether you're
Yes.
just somebody that likes to go into social media like yourself, looks at your phone, wants to catch up with a bit of news, while you're having your breakfast or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then right up to, as you say, the professionals that are supposed to be providing that information.
Mm-hmm.
So one way or another, they're basically trying to stop us from gathering the information or spreading the information.
It is, and it's funny. It's design. I mean, who would if you had to pick a journalist to give you the news, would you pick Richard Madeley and Ed Balls, or would you pick somebody that's been on the front line and done their research and gone there and found stories? It would be the latter, wouldn't it? You wouldn't pick these idiots that are now puppets in front of us on the telly.
Absolutely, and it's like everything, you would definitely go to anybody, no matter what. You would prefer to go to somebody that actually had life experience of a particular subject matter to actually give you, like, for example, policy making within our either local government or our devolved parliaments, etc. I've always been an advocate that there really should be people round that table with life experience that they can actually put across what's fit for purpose and what isn't fit for purpose because of what they have seen and witnessed and experienced. So you always do want those people with the experience to actually come forward to give you the information, no matter whether it's for media or for policy making or anything in between.
But the problem comes, Colette, when the journalists are speaking against the government of the day, and it seems that the Israel campaign, the journalistic campaign, is criticising Keir Starmer and the rest of them, and now they've got the police and they've got the agencies to invoke Section 12 of Terrorism Act 2000. And it's very, very scary because even the police didn't know what they were arresting this guy for. And they asked him what his religion was after they pulled the crucifix off his neck. Do you know what I mean? They have no idea. It's on the hoof stuff. We're living in what's called the thought police. You might not be able to think something. You could be arrested for it. It's incredible.
Well, it's a bit like the same with what's been happening over the past few years, that even like Police Scotland are, even though it's not law, they're actually registering a man who's been arrested for raping a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And if the man identifies as a woman, they're actually classifying him in his record as a woman raping a woman. Self-identification is not law, it's not legal. It wasn't passed here, but they're allowed to seemingly put that down on official records that this adult human male is down as a woman in official records when he's been arrested for sexual assault. So this is happening more and more. It's like a law onto themselves, no matter what the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's about dictatorship. It is dictatorship.
Yep.
They think they're above everybody else, and they can just do what they want. And sadly, because of Labour now having such a majority, I think they feel that they can actually do what they want and when they want, and that's came across very, very early in their government process. They've only been in power 8-9 weeks.
I know, and yet they're bringing through this hardline agenda that even the Tories 10 years ago wouldn't touch. But the Labour Party conference, which is going on just now, gives us an idea. Yesterday, a young man shouted out to free Palestine. Now, all he was doing was using words. His hands were visible. He didn't have a knife. He didn't have a gun. His hands were visible. You could see him. He was manhandled. He was choked, throttled. But what astounded me was as he was getting taken away, the crowd started cheering that as somebody who's given out is what we think is every given person's right for free speech was taken away, and they were shouting him down and glad that he was getting shouted down. My goodness, these people in that conference hall, you talk about Scotland being colonised, but what have they been? What's happened to them? I don't know. What is the world coming to, Colette? I don't know.
I think it's almost like they're in this euphoria of having, after all these years, having a Labour, now having a Labour government, and I think they are all still, I don't know, running on some type of adrenaline. But for that man, the way he was manhandled and taken out, and I think at the clip, I think he actually hit the wall on the way out of the doorway as well. But then Rachel Reeves said, she said something, I can't even remember the words now because there's been so much happening. But she said, Labour are for the people, etc. Well, people are allowed to have a say. He wasn't a threat. He didn't run up on the stage, and I do understand there is security risks. We have seen it at conferences. We have seen, 2 MPs being killed. We do know that there are security risks, but he didn't leave his seat. He was just, they could have just said, "Can you just sit down?" They could have handled it a lot better.
Of course
he wasn't running up towards her.
Nope.
He was very, as you said, he was static. There was people all around them. They weren't kind of running out their seats, worried that what was going to happen to them, because at the end of the day, they would have been the ones that were at more risk because they were right beside them. I think it was very badly handled. They could have just asked him to be quiet. And, yes, they might want to, make their point. She would have wanted to have, get her speech done. But it really was very badly handled. It wasn't a good look at all. And I think in the social media, I think you saw it, with the social media, people are calling out for who is this security company? Who are these people? Is this the way, questions have been already asked about the way it's been handled. It's not just us. It's saying that, I think even some people at the conference and people watching that are asking questions about the security company.
I know. I've got to put out a message, as I always do. People are saying, is there any way we can stop the music interrupting our conversation? Well, that was for John Wood, Simon Clark, Mary 2000 or 2042, and Alex. there's nothing we can do. We've gone to the streaming agency and they've said, you are the only radio station that this happens to. All the other stations that we control, nothing like this happens. And we have no idea why you get music coming in, blurting in when you've got guests on or when I'm doing something. We don't know. We think there's things going on. Ultimately, I can't fix it because I'm just, I've got a politics degree. I haven't got an engineering, I've got an engineering background, but I haven't got this kind of background, so I don't know how to fix it. But that's what we're up against, Colette, all the time. People listening to this show will not want it to go out because it goes against what they're believing in, and it goes against what we've just been talking about, terrorism acts and control of the media. So we'll carry on regardless on that one. Any other things, Colette, this party conference is really doing your dinger? I've got a few.
Well, I'll say positive. There's, they've got the highest amount of attendees in all these years, and I could actually see that happening last February at the Scottish Labour in Edinburgh, their conference last February. It was quite energised, and it's I'm not a Labour, obviously I'm not a Labour fan or anything, but for the people that support Labour, I suppose they are, it's actually quite good for them. They feel slightly elated. That's a good thing. But what I am not liking, there's a couple of things that have came about. I noticed yesterday when I was watching clips on the news that everywhere there was, especially on the stage, but in the foyer, there was the subliminal messages of using the Union Jack everywhere.
Oh, yes.
It was everywhere. It was on the stage. It was huge. And then all round the foyer, when any MPs or any of the delegates were getting interviewed, there was, and it's not just the full, it's actually wee bits, but you can still see the colours and you know exactly what it is, and it's in the background. It's everywhere. And they're using it's all this the subliminal messages like Britain, country. They're using all these very key words, but the Union Jack thing is visible constantly. But then they were showing last night that seemingly on this Sunday night they have what they call the Scottish night.
Aye.
Now, seemingly the Scottish night up until now obviously would have been quite a depressing, because they only had Ian Murray and then they got Michael Shanks. So I don't think it would have been very well, attended or whatever. But seemingly Sunday night there was a queue waiting to get into the room. So as they went into the room, and Keir Starmer addressed the room for some reason, and he was saying about how they had the 37 Scottish MPs. But I looked around the room and I looked behind him, and there was not one saltire.
Yep.
Not one. It was it was white walls all round where the attendees were sitting, and behind him there was some words I couldn't make them out, but there was not one saltire that I saw in that room, and it was supposed to be celebrating the Scottish night in Labour.
Well, do you know this? There's a lot of people in the Labour Party that I know of that are independent supporters, so they couldn't be seen to appease them, could they? It's know your place, jocks, and I will address you, and you will do as you're told, and you will have a room, not a hall. You'll have a room. That's why there's a queue, Colette, because it was just a room.
Yes.
It wasn't a hall, it wasn't a big thing, and it's almost what these things are Anglo-Scots things, aren't they? They'll try and wear a tartan trousers, and they'll try and wear a tam o' shanter, and they'll drink a whiskey even though they hate it, and they'll try and do things Scottish that they're supposed to do, but they're not Scottish. They're not like you or I. They haven't got a clue about our culture.
No, that's what people, when they think about Scotland, that's the key few things that they think about. But I really was quite aghast at this not having anything to do with our culture, and especially our flag, our national flag. But whereas all round the rest of that building is wee tiny snippets of the Union Jack that you could see popping out absolutely everywhere. And that's on purpose. That is on purpose, because they're trying to make basically make out, one, that the UK, Great Britain, is one country, which we know it's not, but also that this now new Labour government is going to look after us as a whole. You know, they're going to consider Scotland, and I just put up on social media there what Ian Murray said last night in an interview about his 4 key points for Scotland.
Oh,
and
yeah.
again, it's you know, seemingly Scotland the brand. Well, what is Scotland the brand? What does that mean to what does that mean to him? But then he says that, you know, about the green and GB energy. What does that mean? How is that going to improve the lives of the people in Scotland? It's greenwashing, it's gaslighting, it's words without any substance. And then he says about improving public services, and you know, in getting rid of basically poverty, and I'm going, free ports, anybody, local councils, growth. He talks about growth for who? What, the global neoliberal you know, companies that are going to come in and, you know, just make a great amount of profit. Morgan Stanley's, BlackRock's of these world. It's not going to help the local councils and public services, and it's not going to help the people in those communities. So again, it's words with no substance, and they've never mentioned, again, he has never mentioned free ports. He dodged the question about Grangemouth as well.
Yes, he did.
He completely dodged that one. Well, it was going to close anyway. We've only been in power 9 weeks.
That's right.
But you were a Scottish MP. You could have been fighting for that before the general election if you knew about it. Why were you not putting a motion or something up for people to debate in Westminster way before the general election? He dodged that completely.
He did indeed. There's a lot they're dodging right now, and it's not just them, it's SNP as well. They're dodging questions on free ports. I haven't heard Kate Forbes come out once and said, you know what, these are a brilliant way ahead. I have never heard her. And we'll be challenging Kate Forbes in the coming months, because she's just down the road. Her office is not far from here. We'll try and gate crash, or not gate crash, doorstep her, and then catch her unawares. I don't know. We'll have to get some questions answered, Colette, because this is not good for Scotland. One of the things.
Well, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to go into the constituency office and physically ask if somebody is willing to do an interview in Caledon Radio.
Oh yeah, I'll try that, and we'll film it and we'll bring it out and we'll put it up on social media, the results in that. But that'll be happening after a chat tomorrow or Thursday. Let's put it that way. We'll do it. Right. Anyway, you're at pains as well to not come away from this blame game. What do you mean by the blame game, and how do we come away from it?
Well, as you know, no matter whether it's when a new government is put in place or during a general election, it's always, but they've caused, you know, and we're having to pick up the pieces, and it's not easy. You know, you go around in a election and you look at every political party's leaflet, and actually they mention more of the opposition's party's names than what they do their own names, because it's actually too easy to do the blame game, or they've done this and they've done that, they've caused this, they've caused that. It's actually quite easy to do that. But actually what I do is I never mention any political party within any of my campaign stuff. I only mention my party and what our policies are, or what our vision is for the future. We never mention, because one, I don't want to give them free airtime or free publicity, but you don't want to confuse, because I've seen quite a few leaflets that I actually thought were another political parties, but it wasn't. It was just that this particular political party mentioned another one so often on the leaflet that I actually thought it was actually the one that they were doing the blame game for. I thought it was their leaflet.
Yeah.
But again, we've seen this over the years. You know, when Blair and Gordon Brown, when their realm was up, they, you know, all we heard, and we still heard it right up into the general election about, oh, they left us with no money, they left us no. And I thought, my God, we've had 14 years in power, and you've had 14 years to, you know, get the economy up to scratch and make it thrive, and make people's standard of living a hell of a lot better, and, you know, relieve the poverty, get rid of the food banks, etc., etc. You've had 14 years to do that, but still 14 years later, you're still standing at that, Prime Minister's questions and actually saying, and you, the Labour Party, you left this note. And I thought, oh my God. And of course, it's now started again with Labour talking about this black hole, and that's all they say. You know, every single person that's, you know what they're going to say. Yes, but we were left with this 22, and you're actually mouthing it because you know that this is what they're getting told to say. It's very robotic, and people are going to get tired of hearing that same rhetoric over and over again. They're going, aye, we've heard it all before. You know, every single person that comes on, no matter what channel you're watching it on, or radio interview, no matter whether they're a cabinet member or they're a backbencher, they're told to say the same thing, and it's very robotic. It's not very inspiring, and people then will click off. They'll go, I've heard all that before, I'm not listening to that.
Aye, and when they hear
it's
it,
making people disengaged.
Well, when they hear that black hole, they start to think, well, there might be something in that, because they hear it so many times, and that's why they say it, and that's why they put it out there as a mantra. It's because it gets into people's heads that the Labour Party, and I've seen there's people out there, Gary Neville, ex-footballer, talking about, well, you never talked about the Tories in such a way when they were doing all their COVID deals and all the rest of it, and you're hitting hard on the Labour Party for a clothing allowance. He's trying to make this a kind of balanced out thing, and he's getting into people's heads. They're comparing a wee thing with a big thing, and that means it's all right for Labour to do it. We're talking about a multi-millionaire, Sir Keir Starmer, getting a bloody clothing allowance. Come on! What? Wake that up! Come on! You know what I'm saying? It's mantra after mantra to try and make it and belittle the intelligence of the people who are watching it.
Yeah, but this has been 9 weeks, Norrie. You know, like, we have to. I can understand that they want their representatives to be speaking the same message, so that everything is very precise in what they're saying, and try and keep it very levelled. But 9 weeks of the same few words, the same phrases, it's getting a wee. Mix it up a bit. If you're going to, they're going to do that format. We know that all political parties use that format to get their message across. But I think when it gets to a few months in, people are, okay, and they get tired of it. So it's actually not filtering through now. They're just getting tired of, we've heard all that, move on. It's almost like hearing a broken record or listening to the same music. You get sick of it.
Well, that's a very good point, because even now today, Chris Law MP, he says, and I'm quoting here is why the pay offer in Scotland has been agreed in Scotland rather than in England. I couldn't give a tinker's curse what happens in England, mate. I want to know what's happening in Scotland. Just because we do things a wee bit better than England doesn't make it all right.
Yeah, but it was just like when Ian Murray was being interviewed, and he said, he turned it on right away, turned it on to, well, the Scottish government it made the same decision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't have the money to actually mitigate that over £1 billion that we might actually need to pay. Are you going to give us extra money in our block grant to actually cover that? Because we just don't have that money to mitigate everything that then you stop down in England that we can actually then give to the people of Scotland. We would love to.
Well, do you think it was a good idea then for the SNP, Scottish Government, to say, well, because you're not giving out an allowance for the pensioners, we can't do it either? We could have found money elsewhere. I think it was Alex Neil that said, look, we could park this bike lane thing that hasn't gone off. There's earmarked 1.5 million for that. That could pay for the pensioners.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that could have been done, and again, that's why they have different policy people there to look at what's coming up on the agenda, what they're planning on business, what to do. So I might not be a huge fan of Alex Neil, but he did have a point that there is things that could be looked at before making a decision, but the point is, Ian Murray was very quick to turn it on to the Scottish Government bad. Well, yous have done it as well.
Aye, but what happens there is that you get into a dogfight. Well, we haven't got the money. You didn't give us it. Well, you've got powers. You've got your block grant, and we've increased it. No, you haven't. You've decreased it. And we get into this fighting match about what's right and what's wrong. Just let's ignore Murray. Let's just push him out of it a bit and just say, we know you're a liar, and we can't deal with you, so get lost. And then get on with what we've got.
The blame game. Again, that is the blame game. It's basically it's back and forward to who's done what and why they've done it and why they've not done it, and you shouldn't have done that, but you should have done that. Again, it's another form of the blame game, and it's very tedious. These are people that have been elected to look after the people of whatever country, whether it's England or Scotland or whatever. They're there to basically supposed to look after us, look after our standard of living, look after our families, and it's all a big argument and basically tit for tat.
But the thing is, Colette, we know fine that the Parliament we've got has very, very limited powers. It really is. It doesn't have the big macroeconomic powers. We haven't got the clout to do everything we want to do. So therefore, it makes it more imperative to go for your number one project, and that is independence. That's what you stand for, SNP. Get the wheels turning. Get something in motion, rather than moan and groan and stall and obfuscate as we get there. Because this is 10 years. We're looking back in 2014, and you know what? Those wheels are stuck in the mud. They aren't moving. We have done nothing but moan and complain when we could have been doing something a bit more.
Yeah, actually, when you were saying that, something just came into my head. What is Jamie Hepburn doing about independence? Is he not supposed to be the minister?
No, they don't have one anymore.
Oh, is that gone?
That's gone.
All right, has it? Right.
Aye.
But did he do anything when he was the Minister of Independence?
Nope. And I've got an interview with him, and he gave me 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, he said we would wait for what the conference would say in Dundee. And I says, no, Jamie, what's your plan for independence? We shall wait for the conference at Dundee. It was like talking to a bloody robot, Colette. It was just pathetic. I didn't even put the interview out. I've still got it, but I haven't played it. It's just not worth it. Seriously, it is poor. And he didn't grasp the questions. And I interviewed Gethins as well. He was everybody says, oh, he's a good lad. He knows what he's talking about. Absolutely had no idea how to get independence. No clue. We have to play it by ear and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, you're the guy that's wanting to get back into power, because at this point he was in St Andrews University and he'd written a book, and the book was, man alive, it was just garbage, full of stuff that you or I could have read, Colette, 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? In 2014, it had brought us no further forward. So how do we get, if we've got 2 years, right? We'll move this on a wee bit. We've got 2 years to 2026 to really change things in Scotland. And I'm really worried, Colette, because I think the SNP are a busted flush now. They are shown to be corrupt on free ports, even in the farm salmon, and loads of other things. They've gone down trails on GRR and bottle return schemes that never even made the light of day. I'm worried that the people of Scotland will be apathetic in 2026 and they'll let in the Labour Party. And all you'll hear from the SNP is, oh, you need to get SNP 1 and 2. So you've got some kind of representation in the Scottish Parliament. I am very worried. We've only got a short space of time to get things sorted. So what do we need to do?
Well, I have the same concerns as about 2026, unfortunately. And the reason why I set up ISP in 2020 was because we thought that 2021 was going to be a really crucial election to get us that, to get us a lot further to independence and our own liberation. But sadly, it didn't go the way we wanted it. And due to that, now things have got a lot more serious than what I would have thought it would have done now, because of, as you say, the free ports, etc. Because this is going to have a major impact on how our economy, etc., is looked upon. I said at the rally a week and a half ago that they're going to use this to actually show that Scotland really seemingly can't afford to be independent because of the figures. But the figures, again, a bit like the JERS, the free ports are going to give a very false reading on Scotland's actual natural resource wealth. So they're trying to make the case for independence economically a lot harder for us to give than what it was even in 2014. But I think with the apathy, as you said, we've seen over the past few elections, and even the few by-elections, that people who've maybe backed the SNP regarding independence, not necessarily for anything other than independence, they've lent them the vote. They haven't went out to vote for them. There is that real apathy. So that is a concern, and I do think that in 2026, I think SNP are now going to give an even stronger SNP 1 and 2 because of that. But then again, I'm hoping in a way that with what Labour are doing right now, people actually don't have short memories. They actually remember what Labour are doing right now. That keeps them in mind for them not to go out and vote for Labour as almost like a protest vote, because hopefully they'll see how Labour has actually treated Scotland and the people of Scotland, and they won't use it as almost like a protest vote, like I think they did even in the Rutherglen by-election. So it is a real concern. But I think now, people are. We've talked about this shift, this change, and I hate. Oh God, I've just seen another image of the stage of Labour with this big Union Jack at the back of it. Oh God, no. But the thing is, I think with this, I think we're going to have to look at 2026, and people. I don't like using the word change because that's what Labour's been using, but we can't keep living in the past, Norrie. We can't keep going down the same rabbit hole. We can't keep using the same format because it's not working now. We have to get people to look upon, and I know people aren't fans of other political parties, but I think that because of our voting system, I think they need to realise that you can't vote for smaller parties or independent candidates. So I think really now this is where the smaller parties and independent candidates, I think we really have to come up and prove ourselves and say, vote for us in the regional list. And there might be some that might be standing in the constituency as well. But again, that's a big consideration on, is that a good thing, is that a bad thing? But definitely the regional list, I think people are going to have to look at the smaller parties and the independent candidates that are coming along. Don't just go for the one party. But I know that definitely SNP will have to go for a very strong SNP 1 and 2 because people haven't been going out to vote. And I'm not just saying that on a whim. It's
no.
We've seen it right from the by-election in Rutherglen, and we've seen it in the general election, but we've also seen it in a couple of the local by-elections that people haven't been coming out to vote for SNP. So they're not I don't think this time, realistically, in 2026, unless there's a massive shift within the party and there is a real shift to improve the party, and that's up to John Swinney as their leader.
Come on,
Colette. They're not guaranteed the constituency vote like they were in 2021.
No. Listen, I've had messages all last week and week before, and even this week. Somebody are saying that Johnny McNeil was saying the straw that broke the camel's back for him was Angus Robertson with the Israelis. Other people are saying John Mason, once he has to be out of that party before I ever rejoin it. Sturgeon Swinney, devolutionists, get out. That was another one. There's and Kate Forbes, Freeport's Forbes, all these people that are in this party, these careerists, a lot of people will not vote SNP until there's a clear out of these people and getting it back to what it was in 2013-14 before it was infiltrated with these people. There's grassroots SNP folk who I know who could never be corrupted. Colette, I know them. They could never, and they've been sidelined and they've been shunted, and they're some of them are out of politics now. So we've got to have a clear out. But how do we get a clear out of the SNP? Because it seems that who put John Swinney in power? Who voted for that? Where was the paperwork and all the votes? And who knows what happens in these political parties? I don't. And they're still there. Still there after all this time. They're still running the SNP. My goodness, there has to be a
nobody was, nobody went up against John Swinney. So
Kate Forbes stood down.
So yeah, exactly. So it really was quite undemocratic. But it will be interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months regarding the SNP. Will John Swinney do the work to actually mobilise the party to make it more for people that did support SNP? But I am now looking at who's going to be standing for the Holyrood seats. Is it going to be the MPs that didn't get re-elected?
Correct.
Alan Smith, Kirsten Oswald,
Alison Thewlis. Yeah.
Will they be going for then the constituency seats in Holyrood? And if they do, then that again is an issue because people weren't voting for them in the general election. Will they go out and vote for them in the Holyrood election in the constituency? So it's really quite muddied waters just now.
Really is.
It is a concern. And because we do not want the likes of not only just Labour, but you've now got Nigel Farage saying that he's going to be in Scotland next year, and their numbers are going up, Norrie.
I know.
It's not necessarily just Labour we have to worry about.
Nope.
It's the rise of Reform coming into it. We don't want that in our Scottish Parliament.
No, we don't. But, once we get them in, if they do get in the Scottish Parliament, we can rubbish them for what they are. There's no place to hide. It was just like when he was in the European Parliament, he was rubbished and ridiculed. It was only when he got into the TV studios that Farage became popular. And no wonder, Colette, he was on Question Time more often than any other person. Amazing free publicity for the man. And what we're getting now, we're getting him with a political party. And if you're an immigrant, you're in terror of your own being. Lots of people get in touch, by the way. Really enjoying the show. And somebody says, yeah, Farage or someone worse will come through the middle of the red blue Tories. Believe you. Can somebody says, can Starmer last? Will he last? Nobody thinks so. Who would take over? It could be like Farage. I don't think a deal with Reform and Labour would happen, as Joseph suggesting. But to get people on side, the Labour Party might adopt Reform tactics to kind of sideline them. That's what the Tories done with UKIP, wasn't it?
Yeah, but also there was at the end of last week we had the article about Stuart MacDonald saying about the SNP working with Labour, etc. In the Scottish Parliament. Well, I don't know how that works, but I think really now the hope that I've got is that we do have one strand that we really all really have to now support, because we do have that threat of Reform and Labour, etc., coming into our Scottish Parliament. I think we really need to all now look at what
Sarah Salyers,
what Liberation Scot are now doing with getting the case ready to go to the UN about decolonisation. Nobody, we were always told that there was no legal route to Scotland ever being free from Westminster and getting our own liberation, but there is. So we
now know that to be false.
We now know that to be true, and people would not be doing all the hours of research and everything that has been done and they don't get paid for it. They're not elected. They're doing this out of their own passion and support for our own liberation, for our own sovereignty. So I think now we really should be looking into and backing Liberation Scot and the work that they're doing. And I'm hoping that with what then comes out with the UN, that will then galvanise people to then go out to vote in 2026, because they can see the light at the end. There is a purpose to go out to vote for people that are going to back the decolonisation of Scotland, and that will get them out and actually putting their cross on their ballot paper, and actually using the Dion system to its maximum potential. We've done videos on it. We will continue to put the videos on it, but people really have to start looking at how they use their voting system here in Scotland to get the maximum in there. But I think people right now, they're fed up of words. They're sick of all this. As I said about Ian Murray, it's all empty vessel words with no substance. People now need action. They want to see something visually. They need action points. So I think now, if people, and again, this is where Liberation Scot and Salvo, the amount of people that still don't know, who are independent supporters, still don't know about Salvo or Liberation. It's incredible, because again, they're not getting the same mainstream media attention. And they've been going for over 2 years. Why the hell are they not getting the media attention? Yes, Sarah's doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews on radios, etc. But it's not getting out onto, like, the, dare I say, the BBC News or the STV News or Channel 4 News, Channel 5. It's not on our TV screens. It's not when you flick on the TV, when you come in from work, the news is on, and there's Sarah Salyers or there's Liberation Committee. That's not there. You actually have to go onto your social media or your Spotify or whatever and listen to a podcast.
Absolutely.
So you actually intentionally have to go and do that. It's not by sheer chance that I never heard about them. So again, it's about the people of Scotland actually having to get that message across, and that's why the likes of the Freeports team, we're now trying to get to every type of event or conference or whatever, and either be inside the event or outside the event to actually promote one Freeports, but again, then still talk about Salvo, because that we are Salvo members, and engage with people. And we've had such great engagements over the past couple of months with places that we've been to, and we've had great conversations. But it really shouldn't be up to us to be doing all this work all the time.
No, it shouldn't, but I'm afraid it has to come down to the people, and we cannot trust political parties, and people we've trusted in the past. We cannot trust them anymore. We can only trust ourselves and what we know. And the Salvo thing gives us a glimmer of hope, doesn't it? Because we're taking the fight to the UN, we're taking it away from Westminster, and we're taking it on neutral ground. Now, I would bet any money that our arguments to the UN would hold fast, and that Keir Starmer would not have an earthly of combating back. If he thinks that he can say, now is not the time, or it's once in a generation and all that guff. He's already said that this is a voluntary union. Ergo, he has nothing left to say when it goes to the UN. This is our best ever shot, and it should have been done in 2014 by people who should have known better then. But listen, better late than never. We must get behind Sarah Salyers and the whole team. It's not just Sarah. There's a whole host
it's
of
a
people.
whole team, and it's people that people don't know about because they're working in the background. But again, this can be a bit of an issue. Yes, we need to do all the groundwork, and hundreds of hours have went into the research of this. Years and years of slogging their guts out over like references and books and all the rest of it. And sadly, people don't see that, Norrie, so they think that there's nothing happening.
Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
Now that the word is starting to get out there, and obviously Sarah's able now to update people with what's happening. But I think once the registration with the UN, etc., starts to happen, and this actually gets out there, people are then going to see some type of action, and I think that's quite inspiring for them. It'll get them mobilized again. That is what. And when you said about saying a voluntary part, well, we know that that's nonsense, and Sarah has outlined that on your show umpteen times. But even during the general election, Martin Geisler asked every unionist representation that he had on, and he had Cole Hamilton on from the Lib Dems, and he asked him, so if this is a voluntary union, which again we know it's not, it's a bit of a false statement, why can't Scotland just leave? If it's this, but and I recorded it because he got himself into such
a fan call.
A flumps of it was like rabbit in a headlight, and it was just like I don't know. He couldn't answer because they like to give out this message. There's no legal route, and there's a voluntary. But they can't give an answer. Why? Well, why can't they then? If it's voluntary, you're saying it's voluntary. That's that word, voluntary. But they can't answer it. And he got completely out of his depth. And all of them did, actually. Every single one of them couldn't answer the question. Well, why can't Scotland leave then?
So here's the thing. If you're in front of the UN Decolonisation Committee and you come out with that guff, you're going to lose that debate. You're going to lose it right, and that could open the door to a referendum, one that's overseen by the UN, not one that's overseen by the Westminster system. And then we're home and hosed, aren't we?
Yes, and they don't have, again, they don't have the evidence to back up what they're saying, because the evidence is there with what the Liberation Scot and Sarah and their team have actually are putting across to the UN. That's taken a long time to find. It's not been easy to find.
Nope.
But they they spent the time finding it, because obviously they're not going to, make it easy for anybody to find this information. But they've clawed their way through endless documentation, and they wouldn't be spending the time and the money on legal stuff if they didn't have a case. And again, with the likes of the free ports, to show that territorial, they didn't have, even if there was this partnership, this union, our territory was not part of that.
No.
They had no right to take anything to do with their natural resources, our land, our seas. It wasn't part of this. It wasn't there anyway. So they've overstepped even the boundaries, even if there was this. And there isn't there isn't this legal agreement anyway. There's nothing, because it never started. So I think really they really know that they wouldn't have a case to put forward, because they don't have the rebuttal evidence to what Liberation have actually came up with. I think they are running scared.
I think they will be, and hence it's not going to be shown on it will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. Gil Scott Heron said that in his song, and he was right. But we have to make it our own. That's all.
We do, but again, it's a bit like what happened over the past 5-6 years with the GRRB. We had all these women protesting, all these groups, and obviously what I went through politically, which wasn't nice. What, like Joan McAlpine and Joanna Cherry, what we all went through politically, which was really not pleasant at all.
No.
Especially being women and feeling quite threatened. But we were doing all this calling out of this so-called GRRB. We had protests. We were outside, prisons, etc. And not once did we have any media.
No.
It wasn't on the TV. Yes, you might have seen some things posted on social media, but again, it wasn't on any of your channels on the TV. It wasn't, and again, about the free ports, nobody is coming to our public meetings from the media, except yourself, Norrie. Obviously, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about we invited, we invited every type of journalist, media, radio. None of them came along to cover it.
No.
It's not on the TV. When they talk about things to do with Scotland, and they don't talk, like Grangemouth, they don't talk about free ports. It's not mentioned. So, but then with the GRRB, after all the years of the protesting, etc., all the public meetings that the women's groups and all that had, it was only very laterally that the media actually picked the single-sex prisons, etc., up. But it was coming to possibly near the end of Nicola's time in office, and it was almost like, well, this is going to be quite a big story for us. But the actual importance of what we were protesting about for women and children wasn't picked up until the very end. And this is exactly the same. What we'll probably find is, once this could maybe possibly be a big story for the journalists, that's when they might come out. But that's years too late.
But
you should be covering this now.
But we've seen a dumbing down of the news all over the place, Colette. It's up to us to keep the kettle boiling, if you like, and keep the fire alight. The BBC are a busted flush. If we start, and even STV aren't Scottish. Let's forget about them. Radio Clyde are owned by Bauer, and so are Forth, and so are Tay. These are the people. This isn't Scottish media at all. Channel 4, you might have a chance. Sky, you've no chance. So you're looking at very limited options. One of the things we could do is we could go to different countries and use their media, but this would take political clout as well. This is where the SNP have really fallen down. You could have had a joint channel like Alex Salmond did with Russian TV, RTE, and that was broadcast on our tellies. You could have went to French telly or Italian or Spanish or Irish and halved it. Say, look, broadcast this to Scotland, our football matches, our political content, our culture, and all the rest of it, and we'll pay for half of it, but you broadcast it because we can't. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got the powers. We could have done that. We could have gone on the backs of other stations. It can be done. It has been done in other places around the world. By the way, I've got a message for you, Colette. It says, "Hi, Norrie. Hopefully Colette and the others who lead the various independent supporting groups, not political parties, are putting some form of plan together to join as one, both privately and in public, significantly to let us all and to let the world see we are one, and to provide that unified support needed for the decolonisation effort which is ongoing. I'm sure you get my point, and we are here for that purpose." That's Saltire. What'd you say to that, Colette? Did you understand any of that?
I totally agree. As I said to you in the last show I done with you, and what I said at the rally, like, I've already been working with a couple of people from the Indie for Indie group regarding the campaign of not taking the oath in 2026 in our Scottish Parliament. I am more than happy to speak to other independent candidates and for the likes of Indie for Indie and other political parties. It's whether they're wanting to speak to us. Norrie, I can't force people to come and speak to us. I very much doubt that the SNP would come and speak to us, because they didn't want to work with us in 2020, leading up to the 2021 election, when we asked them if they would support us in making 2021 a plebiscite election with the strategy that we had with the Deont system. And again, you know, they could have worked with us in 2021 with, they knew that we're going to get the constituency vote. They could have then said, well, we've now got a regional list party, so we will not stand any candidates in the regional list because of our voting system. It really is probably better that some the electorate vote for another party just in the region, and make it very simple for voters to understand that, you know, vote SNP. But then they would have to look for another independent supporting party or candidate in the region. It would made it a lot simpler, but they didn't do that. They didn't support us with the plebiscite election strategy. No. I can't force people to come and speak to me. I would love to, because again, when Alapa were formed, we were all ready to go. We had our candidates all vetted. We had our deposits paid. We took a decision, my members took a democratic decision to stand down and possibly let Alex maybe had a better chance, because he was the former First Minister. But we done it for the country. I know. It wasn't about my party. It wasn't about me. It was about getting the message that we'd been putting out for a whole year about getting the supermajority. We stood down after all the 15 months of work that we'd done to get us to where we were. Down, so to give the chance in our Scottish Parliament for the country.
Yeah, we know all that, Colette, and we stand by what you've done then. But the thing is now that ISP are getting a lot more people joining the party. So maybe this is an opportunity now to give an advert out to say, if you want to join the ISP, this is how you do it.
If anybody, I am more that, yes, we have had more members, and I, you know, I've spoken to quite a few members, and I'm having a meeting with my new members next week, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And we're actually doing a lot more. We're going to be looking at how ISP are going to go forward over the next year. So if anybody does want to join the party, then, you know, you just have to go on to isp.scot website and look up to join us. It's very simple. It just takes a couple of minutes. But again, you know, even about supporting us, you know, at the end of the day, it's about people actually supporting you and who they vote for in any election. But yes, obviously, we would love members to come along and be active and be part of the policy making. And do research into the environment or whatever's going, whatever they're interested in. But yes, we do need people. And recently, I've been getting new members, and they've been taking our new leaflets, and they've been putting out leaflets locally. So they're already getting involved. Like, if I had new members just joining, and literally within a couple of days, I've sent them our new leaflets, and they've went out and been delivering leaflets locally. So it's been actually really. It's actually been really vibrant over the past couple of weeks, but it's good. Yes, we are getting new members. We're getting a lot of support. So all they have to do, very easy, isp.scot, and all the information's on the website to join. And I look forward to the meeting with my, as I say, with my members next week, and actually talking about the way forward for ISP and what the members want to be involved in, and leading up to possibly them maybe standing as a candidate, which will be nice.
See, there you go. And I honestly think, I get the feeling, and I'm pretty good at this, judging the feeling of people out there. People are wanting to do stuff now. They're wanting to get out and get into their communities. They're wanting to be armed with information. The stuff from Alf Baird that people ask me to put out again and again, I get Alf back on, and then I get you back on, and I get Sarah back on, because they're wanting to hear more and more of that stuff, so that they can go out into the communities and give out the information needed. So I think there is an appetite for it. We all have a duty to our youngsters coming through, to the generations that we'll never see, but they'll thank us in the history books for doing something for them. Wouldn't that be?
And that's what we really need, Norrie. We need a lot more younger people forward. But again, it's actually been quite boosting in a way that there's actually been people getting in contact with me that are not members of ISP, but they're asking for leaflets to go out in their area to and again, that happened in the election. I had people going out leafleting for us, but they weren't members of ISP, but they supported us, and they were out campaigning with us and put out, we're going round the doors putting through leaflets for us. So you don't necessarily have to be an actual member, but you can actually help the party, you can help the cause, you can get that message put across by just asking for a few leaflets. I'm quite happy to send them to you, and even if it's just 100 leaflets and you put them round a couple of streets in your local area, that all helps get that word out and get people out of the social media bubble. But it gets you, as you say, it gets people out, gets them feeling as if they're doing something. But again, you're out and about, you start talking to people, you start engaging, and it's the word of mouth.
That's
it's the word of mouth.
That's right. Because this youth clubs have been closed down, community centres are closed down all over the place. Even people don't go to pubs anymore. The pubs are shutting down. There's very little place where we can communicate. And we go to these bloody, in the supermarkets, we scan our own food and all the rest of it, and we don't even talk to anyone as we go doing our shopping. We're in, we're out, and we're in the car, and we don't converse with anyone. This is a great way of talking to each other, getting out.
It is, and that's what I said, even with the Freeports team, the engagement, at the weekend there, we were at the Scottish Currency Conference. The amount of engagement and chat we had there was really, really inspiring. And again, even outside the SNP conference a couple of weeks ago, even though it was quite quiet, but the amount of engagement and long conversations that we were having with people, and as I say, now that we've got like the unions and etc. involved, that just shows what the power of conversation engagement actually do, because it's not just about what you're reading on social media or reading in a post in a newspaper. It's actually physically talking to somebody, and and I must say, we are actually really encouraged even with the Freeport side of things, we're actually really encouraged with the amount of engagement and people now taking notice, because we're actually going to rallies, we're going to events, and they're actually coming up and having long conversations with us. They're wanting to know details and information.
Absolutely right, Colette, because I know fine from the mailbag we get. People are talking about colonialism. Scotland's a colony, whereas I think even this time last year, it wasn't as vociferous as it is now. People are getting the narrative. They're speaking a narrative that's different from when we were broadcasting last year. And the Freeports is taken off. And there is now no place for Forbes to hide. We'll be doing our best at Caledon to try and get her to speak. And if we can't get her to speak, we'll film her trying to avoid trying to speak. So one way or the other, we'll try and get something out of it to show how hollow this Freeports agenda really, really is, and how dangerous it is. But we've come to the end of our time, Colette. I can't thank you enough for joining me. It's short notice today because of something else, but always great to have you on, Colette. And maybe we'll catch up soon when you're in Inverness for another jaunt up this way.
Absolutely. You know that I'm more than happy to come on, and I'm more than happy to come for a coffee and a cake with you anytime, Norrie.
You're a star, Colette. Yeah. And listen, we're going to be starting up, just before you go, we're going to be starting up the High Noon show, because a lot of people are asking, when's it coming back? Why did you get rid of it? And then it's not been there and I miss it and all the rest of it. So we'll try and get guests on in that. And maybe we'll, for a Sunday, if you're not that busy, we'll get you on for a High Noon thing as well. Just because
Uh,
people are wanting it.
Absolutely, we enjoyed the High Noon show. That they were good shows. I thoroughly recommend that you start the High Noon shows on again.
Well, it's more of my time and more of my research. But do you know what better thing could I do? I don't know. Than get the people of Scotland motivated to vote independence. That's what I'm putting this earth for, Colette. This is what I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. But no, it was a pleasure. Thank you for asking me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, Norrie.
Thanks a lot, pal. Right, we'll catch up soon, Colette. Bye bye for now.